You know, for the past couple of months, we have been talking a lot about WWE. But now it is time to head over to the other side of the fence because it is AEW's first pay per view of the year. It is Revolution, and these are my predictions for the show. Of course, with AEW, there's going to be a lot of matches. A lot of matches to talk about. Of course, we're going to kick off with the 0 hour. There are so far 2 matches that are confirmed for the 0 hour. Could be potentially 3, but it is not. The way that the card is shown, the other match that might be on the 0 hour is not listed to be on the 0 hour. It's supposed to be on the main show. So we'll see. But first match that I will talk about briefly is a 21-man blackjack battle royal for the national title. Of course, Ricochet will be defending his championship in that battle royal. Unless there's like a surprise debut or something like that. I sincerely doubt that Ricochet will lose that national title. He'll probably retain it by some screwy means. But I don't see Ricochet losing this title. So Ricochet to retain his national title. The other 0 hour match is for the TBS title, Willow Nightingale versus Lena Cross. Now, what is interesting is that both of them are going to be in the women's tag title match later on in the night. So they're going to both be working double duty. But I have the sneakiest of sneaky suspicions that Willow will probably end up retaining her TBS championship. However, she will probably go into the tag title match a little bit worse for wear. So that's what I'm going to say. Willow to retain the TBS title. And since I'm talking about it, let's just go straight into it. The AEW Women's Tag Titles, the Babes of Wrath, Willow Nightingale, and Harley Cameron versus, I believe the tag name is Meganbayne, and Lena Cross. I have a title change happening. Meganbayne and Lena Cross will win the women's tag titles, like I stated in my previous entry. I think Willow will go in kayfabe hurt, and she'll try and gut through it, but it will not work. My assumption is Harley will probably end up taking the pin on that one. And so Meganbayne and Lena Cross, new AEW Women's Tag Champs. Let us continue with the women's matches and talk about this one. Timeless Toni Storm versus the Death Riders, Marina Shafir. Everyone is barred from ringside. That includes Death Riders. That includes all of the crew that Tony has been rolling around with. Orange, Mina, Shirakawa, all of them. This ought to be very intriguing because, this has been, like I said, a feud that's been going on for quite a while. Of course, they had I believe it was hair versus hair match at Grand Slam Australia, in which Death Riders lost and Yuta became bald. So it will be very interesting to see the route that they go with. I mean, Tony's more the babyface in the matchup than Shafir is, but like the Death Riders are slowly making their way to being baby faces, thanks to like Mox and his like really good Continental Championship run that he's going on right now, which we'll talk about that later on. But you know, this will be very, very intriguing to watch. As for who wins, I'm going to say Tony, because they may start building her up for either a run at either the tag titles or maybe even getting back into conversation for the women's title. That could be something that could potentially lead into All In Wembley. So you know, and anything could happen. So I'm going to say Tony Storm wins that match. In a Tornado Trios match that was recently made after last night's Dynamite, Roderick Strong, Orange Cassidy, and Darby Allin take on the Dogs, Gabe Kidd, Clark Connors, and David Finlay. This ought to be really, really good. I have not kept up with... I mean, I've kept up with the results of, like, New Japan and, like, you know, what goes on. But I've not actually seen, other than Gabe Kidd, who's made a couple of singles matches here and there, I've not seen Dave Finlay, Clark Connors, and Gabe Kidd as the Dogs. I didn't watch their New Japan stuff as the Bullet Club War Dogs. I haven't seen any of that. So this will be my first time seeing them as a trios unit. This ought to be a really physical match, especially considering that Darby's in it, but also in the fact that Gabe Kidd is an absolute monster, as well as Finlay, David Finlay. And it's just going to be physical from the word go. And I have the Dogs winning this matchup, mainly because they're the new group. I think that you should build them up and have them be a dominant force. And what better way to do that than to have a dominant win on pay-per-view? So I have the Dogs winning that Tornado Trios match. Moving on up, speaking of trios, let's talk about the AEW Trios Championships, currently held by the Don Callis family, Okada, Fletcher, and Markdavis. They'll be taking on Jet Speed, Kevinknight, and Speedball Mike Bailey, and Mistico. This ought to be a really, really good match. Considering that Fletcher and Bailey had an absolutely incredible match for the TNT title on this past night's Dynamite, and mixed in with the fact that I got to watch Kevinknight and Kylefletcher, their match in the C2, that was incredible. And Mistico being, you know, Mistico, one of the most over guys in CMLL, this ought to be a really, really good match. But in the end, though, I see the Don Callis family retaining those trios championships. And I don't know who they lose them to quite yet. But I know for a fact that they're not going to drop the belts as of right now. So, Don Callis family to retain the trios championships. And speaking of Don Callis family, let's go on to this. Continental Championship match. Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita. Now, Continental Championship matches would usually have, I believe it is a 20-minute time limit. But for this instance, there are no time limits. Whoever gets a pinfall or submission will win. No time limits. And Moxley has just been putting on fantastic match after fantastic match for the Continental Championship. I believe his match that he had with Takeshita a while back went to a draw, a time limit draw, which is why the no time limit stipulation is attached to this match. I think they're going to have another really good match. Lots of really good back and forth, lots of really good near falls, but I do believe that Mr. Okada of the Don Callis family will screw over Takeshita in some way, shape, or form, and will eventually lead to Moxley retaining his championship in this matchup. And I don't know if you do the turn here or if you wait until Double or Nothing in May, which is, it may sound like it's far away, but, we're 2 months away from Double or Nothing, so they could stretch it out till then and do the face turn on one of their big shows. They could do that. Or you could do it here. Or, they could do it at Dynasty. Or they could do it on a random episode of Dynamite. I don't know. But I think this will be another either building block in the eventual face turn of Takeshita, or the actual turn itself. We'll just have to wait and see. But in the end, though, I do believe Moxley will retain his Continental Championship. Let's see here. In singles action, we have Bandito versus Andrade El Idolo. This ought to be a really good match. Andrade has really seemed re-energized ever since coming back to AEW. Like, he's been putting on good matches, and this almost seems like just about main event, because we're going to talk about what I think is a de facto kind of number one contenders match coming up in a little bit, but this seems like it's just below that, in my opinion, where it's like these guys could go into the main event scene if the company so chooses to go in that direction. They could potentially go with either one of these guys as world title contenders. They could. In the end, though, I'm thinking Bandito is probably going to win this. And the only reason I say Bandito will win this one is because of the outcome that I have for the other match that I talked about. I think that'll it'll balance out nicely by doing that. So, enough of my, stammering about it. Let's just get into it. Swerve Strickland versus Brody King. This, to me, is a de facto number one contenders match. I just see it that way. Whoever wins this match, to me, is pretty much a number one contender to the AEW title. Because both guys, of course, Swerve's been in the main event picture for years now at this point. But Brody, and I've bought this for years, but Brody's just like an absolute stud of a human being, and as a wrestler, like he can do pretty much anything and do any type of match, and I see it working out. So giving him an opportunity to like take it and run with it, I mean, there's no harm in doing that, in my opinion. It's just a matter of, again, is the company willing to take that step with him? And again, I think this is going to be a really, really good match and a really physical match between both of them. My pick, I'm going to end up going safe, and I'm going to say Swerve is going to win this. Mainly because, again, I see it as a number one contenders type of situation. And two, there could be a post-match thing with Kenny Omega, but he's at a Capcom thing in Japan the same day as Revolution. So it might not happen. It could happen, but it probably won't happen. But if it does, then that would be really cool. But I'm thinking Swerve is probably going to win this matchup. And would go on to challenge for the AEW title, either at Dynasty or Double or Nothing. One of the two. Moving on. Just have a couple more left. Well, a couple more left that are listed on the AEW website anyway. Because I'm assuming that there'll probably be like maybe one more pre-show match before the actual show starts. We'll see. For the tag titles, AEW tag titles, an old feud revisited. FTR versus the Young Bucks. Of course, these guys have had matches in AEW for years up to this point. And every single time they step inside that 20 by 20 or 18 by 18 foot ring, they create magic. And this is going to be absolutely no exception to that. This has the potential to be match of the night. And it's going to absolutely rule. Now, as to who I think might win, I'm going to say the Buck. Not the Bucks. FTR. I about said the Bucks, but no. I'm thinking FTR will probably retain their championships. The only reason I say that is because they have recently aligned with Mr. Tommaso Ciampa. And I've heard, and you know how things percolate in the wrestling news sphere, that one of Tommaso's old friends, might be leaving the company relatively soon-ish. I don't know when that is, but he could make a stop. In AEW, he could team up with his friend. We'll see. But I think FTR will probably end up retain their tag titles in that matchup. For the women's title, in a 2 out of 3 falls match, we have Thekla going up against Krisstatlander. Now, I was completely surprised when Thekla won the women's title from Statlander on a Dynamite want to say a few weeks back. A few weeks to maybe a month and a half back. Because I was thinking Statlander was going to have a pretty decent reign with the title, at least until maybe All In, where she was probably going to end up losing that title to Jamie Hayter, probably. But yeah, I'm really surprised that Thekla won the title. And, she's been putting on really good matches, defending the championship. But now, rematch against Statlander, 2 out of 3 falls. I'm going to be safe, and I'm going to say Thekla retains the women's title, mainly because I think it's too soon for a title change. Like, in my head, I want title reigns to at least last, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 months to, like, see how the fans take to it. And I feel like Tekla's reign hasn't started yet. And so I think a good, solid defense against Statlander would probably do Thekla some good. So that's why I say that. Thekla to retain the women's title. Which now brings us to the main event. MJF, Hangman Adam Page, for the AEW World title in a Texas death match. And if Page loses, he cannot challenge for the AEW title again. The man did it. Man went full Cody Rhodes and decided to put up his chance of ever challenging for the world title ever again on the line for this matchup. However, he did get to name his stipulation, and he did win that stipulation. So it will be very brutal and very bloody, this match. And my assumption is there might also be a little bit of chicanery in this match. But in the end, I could be mean and say MJF wins and Hangman Adam Page never challenges for the world title ever again. And, AEW somehow has to, they have the take 2 of, trying to find a loophole and trying to, get Adam Page back into world title contention without, breaking the stipulation. They could do that. But I have a feeling they're not going to. I'm thinking Hangman Page will win the title back. Which, again, it sucks because I feel like, Max only won the belt a few months back. Which, he did. He won it at World's End. But I feel like he's not done anything with the belt other than like his little mini program with Brody. I just haven't felt like he's done anything with it. But my assumption is that they're probably going to end up doing Swerve and Hangman again, but this time for the championship. So that, I think, may be the route that they go with. I don't know if you do that match at Dynasty or Double or Nothing. But I have a feeling that's the road that we're leading down. Another reason as to why I say Hangman wins is because I don't think AEW are that dumb enough to go down that same Cody rabbit hole twice. You have a guy who's clearly in the main event picture, but doing his own separate stuff, like outside of the main event picture. I don't think they're stupid enough to do that twice. So those are my reasons as to why Hangman Page wins the AEW title at Revolution. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All of the matches and my predictions for said matches for AEW Revolution 2026. I will be doing a review for the show. Now, when that gets posted, I don't know, because my work schedule is a little bit crazy right now. So it may be early Monday morning that I post my review, or it may be in the evening when I post my review for AEW Revolution. We'll just have to wait and see. But rest assured, it will be posted. But until then, guys, be safe out there, and I will see you guys for Revolution. I'll catch you guys next time.